I'm Meisha. Welcome to Fibromyalgia Made Simple. This is a show where we try to take just one aspect of fibromyalgia and stick to that subject and bring you just one little part of it because we know fibromyalgia is so big and so complex. That's overwhelming. And so we just want to bring one little part at a time and keep it simple. Fibromyalgia Made Simple. And today I am so honored because I have met a kindred spirit, if ever there was one for me, Elaine Merryfield. So Elaine, tell us a little about yourself.
I've lived with fibromyalgia for 30 years now. I was diagnosed in December of 1989, and that was 18 months after a motor vehicle accident, a head-on collision. And it was a shocker in my life because I'd always had perfect health before then. And, created a lot of change in my life. I was a nurse, a registered nurse at the time I was diagnosed. I kept trying to proceed in that same occupation for about 5 or 6 years and just didn't work. So then I left that and, just made big changes in my life for about 10 years. And then when I had regained a sense of my health in 2000, because when I was diagnosed in 89, there were no meds for it. There was very little known about it. I was given a little 3-page brochure by the diagnostician. And so in 2000, then I felt ready to use my professional background, and I went into health education and put together a 4-week class for people around some basic information about fibromyalgia. Mm-hmm. And I did that for 10 years, taught for 9.5 years at a health education center in one of the metro hospitals in Portland, and led their support group. And then I semi-retired in 2010, and then I met Dr. Lipton, Ginevra Lipton, who has the Frida Center for Fibromyalgia in Portland. So I taught there from 2012 to, I guess I finished up in 2018. Taught different classes and taught new patient classes with her. And yeah, it was a wonderful teaching in a situation, an environment where the physician understood the problem, right. And she lives with it herself. And so it was a really wonderful situation for me to be, offering education in a setting like that.
Well, and the fact that you were with Dr. Lipton really helps us with today's topic because she has an explanation about fibromyalgia that really hits on what we're talking about today. And as you pointed out, she says that it's like a smoke alarm going off, but there's no smoke, right?
Because we have that hyperarousal in our central nervous system and the part of our nervous system that turns on the stress response. So in our bodies, our fibro bodies, we're living most of the time in that stress response, which is not a place we want to be all the time. It's not real helpful for the body.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what Dr. Elizabeth R. Kipp says too. And so I want to just read this little excerpt from her book. And it was just so the reason I said that we're kindred spirits to explain to the folks is Elaine and I have the same philosophies about fibromyalgia. And we were both like, when we were talking just a few days ago, we're both like, oh my God, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And I mean, it was just like, okay, we got to do this. So we just, we feel the same way about it. And when you live with it, you run into people who do have different experiences with it.
Sure. It's a very individual thing. It's very individual and personal.
Right. Okay. So where is fibromyalgia? It's in the mind. As chronic pain sufferers, we get taken down by our pain. As its captive, we become its victim. We are intensely challenged. We've long realized that we're on a battlefield, but few of us realize that the war zone is in our mind. It comprises not only our thoughts, but our underlying physiology that drives our thoughts. It's important to remember that our perception of our safety is the root of all our reactivity to pain. We feel uncomfortable. Our intricate nervous system has perceived a threat, whether internal or external, and is reacting in a way that causes us to act to preserve ourselves. Because chronic pain sufferers feel threatened all the time, their nervous system, their mind, is in a state of constant reactivity and defense. They're using only part of the brain, the part that reverts to the protective mode, rather than being able to access it in a fully integrated way. The strategy then is to bring balance back to the mind. through the nervous system, which embodied practices that helped reset, which will help reset the entire system so that it is fully a cohesive unit again. So basically, we're afraid all the time. For some reason, our we're not safe switch got turned on.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I know Dr. Lipton says in her book, The Fibro Manual, it's like around 90% of people who experience fibromyalgia in particular have had some sort of traumatic experience in their background. And it can be a broad range of different types of experiences. But trauma is when the brain feels overwhelmed, but the nervous system feels overwhelmed by whatever the experience is at the time. And I want to just say a little bit more. I don't want people to interpret what you were just reading about, that it's all in the mind.
Right.
It's that mind-body connection,
Right.
that, our mind responds to the discomfort in our bodies and creates scenarios around what that means, all these, what does this mean for me and whatever,
Right.
and vice versa. Whatever is going on in our brain then is reflected in our physiology.
Right.
And I'm grateful that about 2 years before I was in the auto accident, I was training to be a biofeedback practitioner. I never did do that, but I feel like later in life that was a gift, that I had that information and that exposure to how the mind and body are constantly communicating with each other, and they work together. Yeah.
Right.
So we can intervene in the ways that we treat our body, and we can intervene in the ways that we relate to our thoughts. Both of those can play a role in regaining some balance in our comfort.
Exactly. It has to do with the communication between the two and what the mind is communicating to the body and vice versa.
Vice versa. It's a feedback loop.
Right. Exactly.
A constant feedback loop.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what the part that we can control is what we're putting into the mind. And so that's where the battlefield is what we're feeding ourselves. It is what we're what we're telling ourselves, what we're letting ourselves think about and feel, and what
it's scary when you have pain. It's scary when you have pain.
Yes.
And you think about all the ways that it can impact your life. It is. And so, but much of my work in the last 20 years has been around, and it's interesting, the very first class that I taught, I used to call it Living Well with Fibromyalgia. Somebody in that class said to me, "Have you read the book Full Catastrophe Living by Jon Kabat-Zinn?" Well, no, I hadn't, but it had been mentioned to me twice before. This is the third time it was mentioned to me. I said, I'm going to have to check that out. And she said, well, you seem to have a lot of the same perspectives on this that he has. And Jon Kabat-Zinn was a person at the University of Massachusetts, set up the Stress Reduction Center there, and he introduced mindfulness practices, from those Eastern philosophies, different ways of relating to the thoughts in our brain, ways of calming that nervous system that we can do ourselves, that can change that biochemistry for us and create more comfort for us. And that's all I'll say about that, because I'll get off on a tangent here.
I know what you mean. As I was telling you earlier, I think I'm probably better right now than I've been in 30 years. And I think it started back at the first of the year when I was doing something similar to this. And I just said, people have told me that, my issue has always been that I haven't felt loved, and I just blurted out, people, that's not the problem. I've never been safe. I've never felt safe, and had issues in my childhood, issues in my first marriage, took on very, very demanding roles with work. I've never felt safe, and then couldn't work, because of this. So I've never felt safe. And once I said those words out loud, it was like, holy smokes, I've never in my life felt safe. I said it out loud for the first time. I mean, I had told people before, I want to feel safe. But it didn't click like it did that day. That day, just I was looking right at the computer and knew I was live, couldn't take it back,
Right.
The problem is, folks, I've never been safe. And I just said it. And I was like, holy smokes, that is the problem. I want to be safe. So.
And if we don't feel safe, that's when that stress response is turned on, because there's a mechanism in the brain that's registering all the time whether we're feeling threatened in some way. And this is from really the early stages of our brain development as humans.
Yeah.
And in those times, it was very much needed for physical safety, because, our early ancestors could be eaten by the wild animals, the saber-toothed tiger
Absolutely.
or whatever. So we needed to be able to respond in a very quick and immediate way. But now the types of threats or the types of, feeling unsafe are not usually, that physical threat. It's more like financial threats, or, social threats, stresses going on in relationships, or stresses at work or whatever, that we feel threatened in those more psychological or social ways, but it's
Right.
still registered in the brain as threat, and we still react to it in the brain and the body as if it was a physical threat right in
Yeah.
front of us. So
As if
that's not a
the
healthy place.
line
That's
going
not a
past.
healthy place to live. Not a
No,
healthy
it's
place to
not.
live. That's meant for survival,
Yeah.
and the body does not function at its best in that state. We
Right.
need to be in that, have tools for turning on the relaxation response in the body, which is
And
the flip
that's
side of that stress response,
right.
because that's when the body does its repair work, it does its healing work. That's when we're doing digestion of our foods and all of that. So having tools, that's what I work with people around, is
Right.
having tools to be able to calm the nervous system and help the body turn on that relaxation response is helpful.
And that's
And
what we're here
right
to tell
now,
you.
in the face of what we're dealing with on a global level, of lots of people feeling unsafe because we're dealing with something that's unfamiliar to us. It's
Yeah.
never presented in quite this way, in a global way. And there's a lot of uncertainty to it. We don't know just how it's going to unfold, how long a span this is going to be present in our lives that we have to deal with. So it's even more important to have tools that we're practicing to calm ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because now, the chronic pain community is kind of having some fun with this online. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but they're talking to the people that are having to stay home that haven't had to before, and they're like, y'all have been home for 2 weeks, and you're asking, "Oh, maybe you need to do some yoga, maybe you just need to distract yourself, because that's what we've been told all these years." And so they're having fun
Right.
with it. But there is some truth to that. But you have some really good tools for us. And of course, here we try to make things simple. So we're not going to overwhelm everybody with all of that.
Right.
The gist of what we're doing today is we're saying the body is in this fight or flight mode all the time, and we don't need to be there. And so what you need to do to make fibromyalgia simple here is you need to find a way to shut that down, or to calm the nervous system down.
Calm the nervous system and soothe yourself. Have ways of
Right.
soothing yourself. And, I start out with telling people these are tools, but as you work with them more, they become a life skill, actually, and
Yes.
serve as not only in relation to the fibromyalgia, but serve as just in dealing with the uncertainties that arise in life anyways, part of life.
Right. So tell us what you have for us. I know you.
Okay, so I kind of jotted down 4 things I wanted to share with you
Okay,
today, so I
great,
don't overload
great.
you. And the first is creating an oasis in your home. This is something that I've just started talking to people about more since this coronavirus thing happened. Is, pick an area of your home where it becomes like your little nest during this time.
Mhm.
And I set it up. I did a recording for my Facebook page a couple of weeks ago in the corner of my bedroom. I set it up in the corner of my bedroom, and this is going to be a place, if you're already practicing some of the tools that I'm talking about today and ways of relaxation, great. But if you're just beginning, it can be really helpful to go to one place that you go back to each day as you practice some of these calming tools, like the deep breathing that we'll be doing, because then, with that repetition each day, the body recognizes when you go to that certain place, it's easier to slip into that relaxation because the body's recognized, oh, this is what we do when we go here. So
Right.
make it a special little nest for yourself. For myself, it's a corner of my bedroom. Sometimes I put on my white noise machine, for just some rain sounds in the back. That's my favorite sound. It can be other things for other people. You can put on some soothing music when you're there, if that's particularly helpful to you and calming. or it has some personal items there that are meaningful to you. This is a nest for you, particularly at this time, that you can kind of retreat to and just soothe yourself, just going there and have tangible reminders for yourself. So I brought a couple. There's several in my space, but I just brought a couple today. This one is a piece of coral that's
There we go.
it's a coral. It's a three-dimensional heart. And I found it on the beach in Maui 12 years ago. And the reason why I was there, I was brought over there by this family that I had been doing childcare for, private childcare for. That's what, when I left nursing, that's what I went into for a while, because it just gave me more flexibility in using my body. And I worked 3 days a week for them. And they were doing their 25th wedding anniversary, celebrating in Maui with some friends, and a recommitment ceremony. So they flew me over to be part of it. And it was a beautiful time. I was there for 6 days, and it was all about honoring the relationship that I had with this family. And they told me, they incorporated me in the ceremony. I didn't know it was going to happen. They placed a lei on me and thanked me for the role that I played in their family, that I had really helped with the stress level in their family. And they thought I was part of help get them to 25 years. And so that I found this little, coral-shaped heart has always been meaningful to me. So that's in my space. Another thing that I have there is a little rock. I love rocks. I collect all kinds of rocks. They've always been important to me. And this is a little rock that a friend of mine sent me 2-3 years ago. She found on the beach. She lives on the coast. And it's, dark rock with streaks of white and then a white spot in it. And I love it because it's a reminder to me that life has lightness and darkness in it. It does. It's light and dark. It's not light all the time. It's not dark all the time. It fluctuates back and forth with the flow of life. And I call it the this and that in life. So I call this the this and that stone of my life. So I have things like that just to make this place special to me and very personal to me. So I would encourage people to do that. You've got time at home right now, carve out a little haven for yourself. And if you're home with your family right now and you're not used to all that together time, you can carve out a corner. Each of you can carve out a corner for yourself someplace in your home too. That's your little place to retreat for quiet and calm. So I just wanted to, the things that I do there in my quiet spot, that's where I do my meditation. That's where I do journaling a lot of times, or some of my relaxation practices. You can go there for prayer, however you want to use that space. But it gives you that place when you go there, this is safe time.
Right. And it gets to where when you, I have a chair that I go to that I have my view that I'm always posting online that I love so much. I sit there and my body automatically, it's like when I see it, when I know I'm headed there, my body starts, I can feel it just, it's like, okay, we're almost to our chair. We're almost to our chair. And when I get there, it's like, I don't even have to go in the zone yet. I can feel it happening. And
it's a cue. It's a cue for your body to relax.
Right.
When I was training in biofeedback, my teacher's office suite was on the lower level of this old building in Northwest Portland, and there was no elevator. So she would be in there with clients, practice. There were 2 rooms to her suite, and in one room she would be in there practicing with them, and I'd hear the classical music playing. As I came down those steps to come into the office space, I would just feel my shoulders relax because it was that physical cue, like you just said.
Yeah. Okay. What do you got for us next?
Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is practicing self-kindness. These are tools for all the time, and especially during especially difficult times. But the ways in which we talk to ourselves, and just having a practice of intentionally treating ourselves, paying some attention every day of speaking to ourselves that we intend to be kind to ourselves that day. So one of the practices I have, and I learned this I studied a lot around compassion and self-compassion. Those are big parts of my work too. And one of the teachers around that is Kristen Neff, and she's at the University of Texas. And she's done years of research around compassion and self-compassion. And I love her work. She got into it early on, when her son was young and he was diagnosed with autism. And it was such a big challenge and struggle for her. She knew that she needed some help with this. So she started made that her life's work, and created her own tool for helping herself with that. So this is a simple little practice. It can be a nice way to start your day, or you can use it anytime during the day. But just placing one or both hands at your heart space. I like to place both hands. It just feels good. And then just, closing your eyes and just tuning into your body for a moment and just tuning into yourself. And then extending just feelings of kindness to yourself. And you can say the words to yourself, help me remember to be kind to myself today. Or may I remember to be kind to myself today. Or if it's a particularly difficult day, I've done it like in the middle of the day, but, as the day's unfolded, I'm feeling less well. There's been new challenges come up, just go to that space and extend kindness to myself and say, I'm here for you. I understand this is difficult right now. We will get through this. We will get through it. And just extend that kindness to yourself verbally. And there's been research around this, which I found fascinating, that the placing the hand to the heart stimulates the release of oxytocin in the brain.
Right.
Which is that bonding hormone, that mothers and babies, the experience when they're nursing or, feeding the baby at the breast. So it's important to remember to do the contact to the body, because that's very soothing to the body. Other ways you can soothe the body through touch is through, they found, like, just touching your cheeks, one cheek, or just, holding your face in your hands can be very soothing too, or touching like a certain part of your arm. So touch of ourselves can also be a soothing tool.
I hug myself. If I'm really upset, I'll go.
That's good.
I'll hug myself and I'll say, okay, there's nobody else here to do it, but you can have a hug right now. And I'll just hug myself.
And that's okay. I was online this morning with this, one of the people that I've learned from over the years, Elijah Goldstein, and he was doing a 30-minute online webinar about calming the anxious mind. And there were people from all over the world. There were only around 400 of us. And he said, let's do a group hug right now. And he had us do it at the screen and then ask for people's feedback. And some people were feeling the effect of that feeling of connection with others.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and also when you're practicing that, when you're doing the kindness, and when you kind of come into that, more inward focus of just speaking to your heart, then just check in with yourself and say, in this moment, just this moment right now, am I safe right now? Is there any threat in my immediate surroundings? And usually there's not. Usually it's not, unless somebody's breaking into the house or something. And just checking in with that. And when you feel, right now in this moment, I am safe. There's nothing calamitous that's happening right now. And then allow yourself to feel the feelings of safety in your body for a couple of minutes. Just let that soak in. That's all information for your mind and your body. And your body, the chemistry of your body, will respond in kind.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, the third one I want to talk about is deep breathing. There's lots of ways I can talk about working with, the mind, the body, but the simplest is really our breath, just deep breathing. And probably many people have heard of this before and maybe discount it because it seems so simple, but it's kind of a miracle worker in a way. And the breath, you don't need any special tool to do it. You can do it anywhere because the breath is with us all the time.
Yes.
So I'll just kind of demonstrate for a moment and then let you do it yourself for 2-3 times. So the techniques that I use in introducing is just breathing through your nose really deeply till you feel like the air is moving down low into your lungs. And you may feel some movement in your abdomen, your belly, and that's even better. Sometimes this is called belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. Just bringing lots of air into your lungs, expanding your lungs. And when you feel full, then breathing out like this. Pursing your lips like you're blowing through a straw. It just slows down that out breath, and just let that breath out slowly. The key here is to breathe deeply and slowly.
Okay.
And let the breath out slowly as well. Because when we're in stress response, that fight or flight, we're not breathing like that. The breathing is much more shallow. Sometimes we're holding our breath at times, and the breathing is much more rapid. So when we intentionally deepen our breath in that way and just practice it for 2, 3, 4 minutes, even 3 breaths can make a difference. That's a signal to the body that it can turn on the relaxation response. It's that simple. It's that simple, and we can do it. So, yeah. So
Elaine, we lost the internet there for just a minute. So just say the last part again. It was the very last part when you said it, when we hold it for just 2 or 3 minutes, and then the internet went out for a second. Are you there?
When I'm talking about when we're in stress response and we may hold our breath or stress response, we're breathing in that shallow way. And yeah.
Yes.
But when we intentionally deepen the breath, then that's a signal to the body. That's a signal to the nervous system and the body that it's safe to move into relaxation response. So that's how we can we can consciously turn on that relaxation response in the body. It's amazing.
I have a friend and my sister that I've been through a couple of big traumas lately. I lost my dad and my son, and
right.
This move has been hard. I moved all the way across the country.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
That I ache to be close to. And my comments to them have been, I can't breathe. I can't breathe, and that's really how I've been. It's been, and I hadn't recognized it as fear. I just recognized it as it's been pain, just visceral pain. I can't breathe, but it is a type of fear. It is, it's separation, and that's anxiety.
A lot of change,
Right.
a lot of change, fast, frequently one way after another is a type of stressor,
Yeah. And it's what I've said is, one friend in particular, I know is tired of the messages, but I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. But I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't do the things I knew I needed to do because I couldn't breathe. And I, just frozen in fear with what we have, the pain shoots up, everything, all of our symptoms are just, and it's what we have. And so what you're saying is it makes so much sense. And so I try
a way of calming. Yeah.
Right.
And, if it gets really intense like that, then using, some backups too, like turning on soothing music or stepping outside, and just feeling grounded to the earth for a few moments, getting out of the head and all this going on in the head, and just, stepping on Mother Earth and just feeling your connection with Mother Earth, that she's solid and she's there beneath you to nurture you, and just feeling that connection of rooting and grounding into earth. The other thing I wanted to say right now, too, because we're dealing with this coronavirus thing, and one of the areas of the body that it seems to attack is the lungs, that when you're doing these deep breathing exercises, really in that time, too, feel a sense of gratitude, express gratitude to your lungs for all that they do for us. They are a connection to life.
Yes.
That exchange of air, the air around us, and for our bodies to survive, all our cells need that oxygen that's delivered through that inspiration,
exactly,
in-breath and out-breath. So another thing, when you're doing the deep breathing, or even when you're doing the self-kindness practice that I just described a few minutes ago, just really extend some feelings of gratitude and acknowledgement to your lungs for all that they do for you. That's another time.
Yeah, gratitude is, you think that you are thankful for things, and you're like, well, gratitude, I'm a thankful person. But when you stop and you purposefully do it, when you do it with intent, then you realize there's more to it than that. It's when you do it as an exercise, it brings so much more to it. There's benefit from it.
Yeah, and just slowing down, all of these things I'm talking about, we're moving through them pretty rapidly because we have a specific amount of time, but it's a slowness, slowing down to do them. And with the deep breathing, you can start with just doing, 3-4 breaths. You might start with doing it in your Oasis place. And then as you get comfortable with that, then branch it out into your life and pair it with other things that you do all day. So that it becomes like a little interval of pausing and calm. I call it pausing to calm and refocus throughout the day. You can do it when you're in the shower. You can do it when you sit down to have a meal or a snack. You can do it when you go, maybe go from this room to the next room. When you're walking next room, maybe take a few deep breaths. You can do it when you get off a phone call. You can do it when you go to your computer. So start to integrate it into your life. And a nice way to start is just for a few, lie there in bed when you're first waking in the morning and take a few nice deep breaths. Do it again at night as you're unwinding, when you lie down before you're getting ready to sleep. You're just bringing some relaxation into the body.
Right.
Okay. I think that's mainly what I wanted to say about
Okay.
calming, but I wanted to say one more thing, bring it in here, because
Fine.
I've been finding that it's been helping me.
Okay.
And I'm really into this anyway, of joy, finding what your joy is in life.
Yeah.
But during this time, make sure you're doing something. And this is all very personal. So you get to choose what this is. Choose something, at least one thing or more, that uplifts your spirit every single day. And I found just this last week, I started dancing. Now, I love to dance. When I was younger, I used to love to dance.
I love
And
it.
a few days ago on the weekend, and I've been baking more and doing a little more cooking, simple things like soups and whatever, putting them away in my freezer during this time and whatever. And I enjoy that, if it's simple and I don't make it complicated. But I realized the other day that I was missing some music. So I had my laptop on the table here outside the kitchen. So I went to Pandora and I thought, oh, what do I want to listen to? I went to classic rock and I started dancing. I started rocking out. So now I've been doing that every couple of days, and I'll just sit down. Sometimes I'm just sitting down and just keeping time, the
Yes.
beat to the music. And I feel my youth. It connects me with my youth. When
Sure.
I felt invulnerable, when we're in our younger years, we don't really realize all the things that we can encounter as we go through life.
Right.
And it connects us. Yeah. So it's another way of changing your biochemistry
Yes. Yeah.
and uplifting the spirit, whether it's something you read from something inspirational, a poem, through your prayer, whatever, do something that gives you joy every day. I just went and got some plants the other day at the local nursery. They've opened up their outside door, so I don't have to go through the main store and all the traffic. So I went through and got some fuchsia starts. I'm going to plant them this weekend because digging in the dirt always feels good to me. I only do it in pots now. I can't get it on the ground, but digging in the dirt is always very nurturing and calming for me.
It's odd that you brought up do something that brings you joy, because just this week it hit me. I love what I do. I love doing this, but it's also one of the things that can make me not well, because I put a lot of pressure on myself to produce, produce, produce. And so I sat down and I was meditating, and I'm like, this is nuts. You love what you're doing. You're the one who sets the schedule. So if what you're doing is making you sick sometimes, you're doing it to yourself. So you're robbing yourself of the joy of what you do. You're creating this whole situation. So I took my entire calendar and I took what I love, but I just spread it out. I
Yeah,
said, okay,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have
You have control over that.
yeah,
You have
I don't
control
have to pile it up like I am. I can do all of it. And actually, I've added a couple of really big things to it. And so I'm like, if I'm going to add these really big things, I have to manage this. That's where this came from in my meditation. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? Because these really big things are important, but I can't do what I'm doing now. And so, and that's when it hit me is, dummy, you're doing it to yourself, and I'm like, that's not kind. I can't talk to myself that way. But, it was like, well, wait a minute, so I just took my calendar and I just felt this weight coming off of me. It's
Sure.
like, and the smile coming on my face, because I'm like, oh, I love doing this show, but I'm only going to do it once a month. And I love doing this show, but I'm only going to do it once a month. I'm not going to do 4 in a month or 2 in a month, or I'm not going to. Some of these I try to do for a while. I was trying to do them every day, and I'm like, you have fibromyalgia. What are you doing? So.
And what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
So again, like that's an act of kindness.
Yeah.
That's an
I'm
act of
loving my own
self-kindness
joy.
when you rescheduled your
Yeah.
calendar.
Yeah, and bringing my own joy back. I was robbing myself of my own joy, and it was an act of self-kindness. Matter of fact, one of the people that I had to reschedule was Tammy Stacklehouse, and I'm like, Tammy, I'm sorry, but I need to reschedule you, and this is why. And I gave her a little brief explanation, and she's like, not only can you reschedule me, but you get a gold star.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah. And I think I do online fibro healing circles and mostly that's what I do now. I don't do the in-person classes presently. I plan to workshop for the spring, but that's not going to happen now.
Right.
But I've been hearing from people. One of my fibro circles just met on Saturday, and one of the women said she used to always come to circle and say how, when she was in the shower in the morning, she'd be crying in pain, before she left for work. And now she's saying, now that she's home, she's still busy. She's a teacher, so she's having to revise her curriculum so she can teach online the next 2 months before school is out. So she's got plenty of work to do, but she's got flexibility in how she's approaching her day.
Right.
And she said, guess what, you guys? I've got less pain. Another woman just emailed me the other day, and she's taken classes with me in the past, and I just checked in with her recently. And she has trouble with setting boundaries and saying no to people. And she and her husband, she's older, but they have a very busy social life.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it was family members, so she'd feel guilty saying no or whatever.
Right.
And we did an individual session recently. And I said, well, and this is something I'm reminding people of a lot too, is like, think about whether what you're planning to do today is nourishing to you or not.
Absolutely.
Let that be your barometer of truth. Is this going to, do I think this is going to nourish me or not? And so she's put that on her vanity mirror, and she said, and so she's, and now we're, have this social isolation, but she said, Elaine, I have less pain and less anxiety. So I think we can use this time that we're in right now in some new ways. We've got, different segments of time. Like I see with myself, I'm not busy running around on errands all the time. I'm home, and you can use that as self-reflective time about how you want to adjust your life when we move out of this space. It's kind of giving a time out. It's new challenges. There are new challenges that come with it too. Some people with their jobs and whatever, but it also is, for a lot of us, is giving us segments of time we didn't have before to just sit down and be with ourselves, do some relaxation, and ponder how we want to go back into our lives when we go back into interacting again.
In some ways, we as a whole planet were going at full speed and refused to slow down. And I think the planet said, okay, you won't slow down. I'm going to slow you down.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think we just got told, guess what? You're slowing down. And guess what? We slowed down.
So there can be some very positive,
absolutely,
positive insights that people can gain from this time, and that they can start to make changes in their life going forward that are going to be more nourishing for themselves, and going to, with the fibromyalgia, just even help you feel better.
Absolutely, yes. People, especially. And I do think there's, I brought up earlier that the chronic pain community is kind of, having some fun online with the people that are having to stay home now. But I do think this is bringing some awareness to people that once made light of the fact that, we're talking about, okay, our lives have been turned upside down. We don't have our work. We don't get out now. We don't. And I think it's awoken some people to the fact that, hey, wait a minute, this is not a good thing. This is not easy street just because you're
right. So I
think it is showing us we're learning so many lessons from this. So and that's part of, you and I are people that we're always going to see the glass half full. So there are going to be some people saying, listen to those two old women, what are they talking about? But I'm telling you, the glass is half full. It's always half full. Because I fill mine up at the ocean. I don't go to the faucet.
Well, there are things we can control and a lot that we can't control.
That's right.
The thing we can control is the choices we make.
Absolutely.
And the more that we're making those choices from a relaxed place and from a place of soothing ourselves and, assessing whether this feels nourishing to me or not, those can be really positive choices. Choices that are healing. That's my whole thing, is healing.
Healing. And on that note,
we can't necessarily make everything go away. We can't necessarily make all of our symptoms go away, but we can definitely move towards healing.
Right. And that's what I wanted to end with is that when we talk about healing with fibromyalgia, there are some people who do say they have been completely healed, and I am all for that and support them if they have. But I also recognize that in my case, at this point in time, it's a process. I am so much better than I was. And I see this as something I'm going to have to continually work at and keep doing. And it's a way of treating myself that I've got to do from now on, And so, and the tools that you brought today are going in my toolkit because they are definitely things that I'm going to have and keep using. So folks out there who depend on us to help make fibromyalgia simple, today, I think we brought you some really, when you look at them, simple concepts that are going to make big impact on what's going on with your symptoms and how you manage your fibromyalgia. And they're not hard to implement, but it does take implementation. You have to decide to. And I know when you feel so badly that even getting up and fixing something to eat is overwhelming, that sometimes it can seem like it's all talk. It's just all talk. Well, I understand that. And I know it can be hard. So just do one of them. Just take one of them. Just one. Just pick one and do that one. And then
just take one doable step.
Yeah. And when you feel that one, then you're gonna say, I'm gonna watch that again. What was that other one? And then next thing you know, you're gonna be doing all of them. But just take one, because that's what Fibromyalgia Made Simple is all about. Just do what you can when you can. Just learn what you can when you can. Don't expect to conquer fibromyalgia completely and all at once, but always be working toward minimizing fibro and maximizing life. Until we see you again next time. Thank you, Elaine, for being with us.
Yeah, Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Take care, everyone.